All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee with Artists. My name is Rachel Wilkins. I am delighted to be here this beautiful Friday morning. Have a wonderful guest and a dear friend joining me this morning. The lovely Annette Back is joining me from New York, right across the river from me. Annette, welcome. It's great to have you here this morning.
I'm very excited to be here. Okay, I got this thing now.
We're having some little tech challenges this morning. We're trying to figure out how to go live on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube all at the same time. So bear with us. We're going to do our best. Annette has been a trooper so far this morning with all our little tech challenges. So thank you, Annette. We love you. So first things first, tell us where you are right now, because I see a lot of beautiful art in your in the background there. Are you in your studio?
Well, I'm in my dining room.
That's awesome.
My studio is aqua and very bad lighting for this kind of thing because it used to be a playroom.
I love that we talk often about kind of artists having themes for their studio. When we're sending newsletters, it's always a good idea to have kind of a theme around where you create the work, just to create some further brand identity. And I loved when you shared with me that you converted what was the playroom for your now grown-up children kind of growing up children into this creative space. Tell us about that transition and how it feels to have somewhere to go to create.
That's really fabulous. I love being able to just, if I see that I have 2 hours or 3 hours, I see, I can just go downstairs and work on something. And I usually have 3 or 4 things going on. So I can pick up something that just for fun, like as entertainment, because I love doing this.
Are you somebody that, and I do know quite a bit about Annette, so I'm just going to pretend that I don't today for the purpose of this session, but share with our audience, are you somebody who needs to wait for ideas to come, or are you somebody who just gets into the studio and, works through those dry spells?
I have no dry spells. I have constant inflow of ideas, and it's so overwhelming that I have to do a little sketch, usually on my phone, really ugly, but I get the idea down, and then they sit there. Sometimes they sit there for a year or two because I just have so many, and they just keep coming.
Is there anything in particular that you would say there's a thread perhaps of where you pull your ideas from, like a well that you are particularly inspired by?
I wouldn't say that.
Like the creative well, like some people it's music, for some people it's going and experiencing other art, for some it's nature. Like what has been the thread for you?
Often it's words. Often it's words or a poem or a line I hear somewhere. Where was I? I was hearing a French song, and I do speak French, not that great, but I do love French music. And I said it said sleep, but don't close your eyes. Oh my God, that's a painting for me. I haven't done it. It's still in my little sketch thing, but it's in my head, and it'll stay there until I have a visual to go with it. But I just love those words, sleep, but and it's by Patrick Bruel, if you guys know that artist. And I'll see a sign somewhere, or just usually it's words, but often it's other visuals or photographs where the words come with it. And sometimes there's no words. Sometimes it's an emotion that I want to express, or an image that I'm particularly inspired by. I do also love poses of figures that tell the story without the face. So I love the emotion that you can get out of a body or a position of the body without showing, the face.
So you're somebody who has a busy life, right? You're married, you have 3 children, you have twins, amazing. You are, a mom, you're a graphic designer, you have your own graphic design business, and you're also an artist. When you have all of these external things going on, and you're also somebody who has this influx of ideas, how do you make time for them? Do you have a system where you maybe jot the ideas down and you revisit them when you have space? How does that look for you?
Yes, like I said, I put them in a little, like it's on the iPhone. There's something called Paper, and I just doodle it. The ideas, I doodle it onto a page, and that's how I remember my ideas to be revisited later. And sometimes on Instagram, when I show from idea to progress, I will include that ugly little doodle, because it's fun to see that it came from that 1 second.
And I think a lot of people really get a kick out of that, especially the non-artists that are, following us or watching us, because they don't understand how we take something from like a vision or, ideation to something beautiful. Like that is totally almost like a foreign language to those who are not expressive in that way. One of the things that I was thinking about is you are somebody who is always creating. How do you manage when perhaps you have a vision, and I'm speaking from my own experience here, but right. You have this idea, you see it in your mind, and you can't quite execute it to what you want it to be in your mind. Does that ever happen? And if it does, how do you work through that?
No.
I like your confidence.
The vision, so the idea comes, then the vision will follow, and then I don't go quite right away to the canvas. I will go to the computer. I will decide on the dimensions and then find either like the visual that I want to put in terms of a photograph that will work with what I want to do, or even a painting, like just for reference. And then I might find, if it's, I have two different styles, almost three at this point. It's horrible to say. But in the style behind me, you will see that I incorporate words, text, and photos. So if it's one of those paintings, I will go to the internet. I will find photos that will support the message of the overall painting. And I will smack them. I will print them out on my printer. Either if I do use Mod Podge, I will just plop them on and go over it, or I'll do the gel with the reverse. But I'll plan that out loosely, the figure or the concept and where the items go, very loosely. And I take that printout and put it next to me when I start the big canvas.
So this is a very methodical process.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel the urge, as somebody who paints acrylic and oil painting, do you ever feel the urge to just go into the studio and do some intuitive painting?
Yeah, I do those too, for sure. Sometimes I'm just like, oh no, I just need to feel the paint and just use the brush and go like crazy. And I'm always experimenting with whatever I feel like. And I've developed some other ways also to paint with those with tools. Actually, I have a lot of toys, I call them. I'll use a toothbrush, I'll use fork. I did this one painting almost all with a fork and like scratching my friends that were around when I was in sharing a studio. They were like, "Are you forking?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm forking." I use whatever. I collect a lot of lids and round things to get my circles done. I love circles. Yep, I love circles. I have a lot of templates, and I just always, I love the spatula thing, palette knife. I use everything. Sometimes I just squirt paint on the canvas. I love to play, and I'm in the playroom, so it's very fitting.
I like the concept of play. I think it's something that we don't really talk about as much as an art community, because it's seen as perhaps not as highbrow that we go in and play and be like children, right? Because that's essentially, I think, what we do when we have that creative freedom, when we're not restricted by, a gallery or restricted by an institution about what we're allowed to paint. We really do just play. And I think it's a good reminder to the non-artists to make time for themselves. I'm looking at everybody who's a non-artist right now, to do something that fuels and delights that inner child, right? That whether that's running or whether that's sports or whatever your passion is, but to remember how important it is to feed that little 5-year-old that's inside of us. So I want you to imagine, if you will, I don't know whether this is a reality or not, but you have 3 uninterrupted hours in your studio without kids or husband or anything. When you're in that moment, right, where you're doing nothing but creating, you don't have your cell phone, it's just you and the art, what do you feel?
Free. And just free. Like I'll follow my own thoughts, my hand. I feel free to do whatever. Oh no.
That's New York. That's New York.
Yeah, it's a delight. It's a delight.
I think that feeling is so hard to tap into anywhere else other than when you're creating.
Biking.
You got to be aware of hazards though with biking.
Yeah,
it's a little different.
The funny thing is, when I'm biking, I will have ideas. It's a weird thing. Like I'm biking, all of a sudden I have a vision with it's all already there.
Yeah.
When I'm biking.
Well, there was studies done that show, pretty significant results that when you are looking for ideas, being mobile, moving your body, and also being in nature are really helpful for generating those ideas. So I think that there's definitely merit to that.
Right.
Do you feel? I think there's a conversation that's happened around artists, when they're in that moment about the divine, right? This idea that artists are channeling something deeper, something more spiritual when they approach their work. I know you're a very pragmatic person, so I'm interested to know what your thoughts are on that.
I don't know if it's spiritual or, no, I don't know. I cannot answer that question right now.
I see Pamela in the comments, or Pamela Vitale, who we love, is also a biker. She said, yes. So it's not everybody experiences that. Sometimes I think there's a higher sense of consciousness at work when we are in that moment. What is actually driving those ideas? What's compelling you to put, is it just ambition? Is it passion? Is it just that creative urge? Or is it something more?
I think it's expression.
Yeah.
So expressing myself, expressing something that I feel that's going on in the community or in our current events often, or even in my own life. I've noticed a lot that I have a 13-year-old daughter, and she's being told, don't sit like this, don't do that, that's not ladylike. And it bothers me. Things like that bother me. And my 13-year-old boy, who is actually visually talented, when I get him in front of a canvas and a brush and I make him, I ask him, why don't you do this more? That's for girls. I'm like, where do you get this from? So these are things that are mulling in my head or that are coming up, and then I want to express those.
I think it's interesting that you're able to really get a very fair view of how men and women move through the world, because you have 2 children that are the same age, a boy and a girl. What are some other differences and challenges that you've perhaps seen with that kind of comparison?
It's so vast, the expectations of boys and girls, and you can't fight it. It's the society. It's history. It's so ingrained in us, and we're almost never conscious of that's what we're putting on them. I'm guilty myself. Obviously, I don't want her to sit like a boy. So I don't know. It's actually, it's not a painting or a vision yet. So it's something that I need to work out. But it's definitely, maybe it's just nurture. No, nature. It's definitely nature. It's just nature.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of expectations on women just in general, right?
Yes, definitely on women. I have that feeling all the time, like that I'm everything to everybody. And that's hard. That's hard, but it's also us, and it's right. So it's like, where do you find your balance? Because I want to be that friend. I want to be your mentor. I want to be your mom. I want to be your wife. I want to be everything. I want to be that person. And then, but if I do all of that, I can't be doing my art. Like, I can't be doing me. So it's sometimes really hard to find that balance.
And I think just identity is a conversation in general, that when you are playing all those roles, it's so important that you keep that piece of you that does light you up, that does, give you that fire in your belly. And it seems like that you have that with your artwork, and you make a conscious effort to make space and make time to do this thing that you love so dearly.
I do make the space, but I do feel guilty at the same time. So
guilty.
Take, that whole 6 hours. I love just 6 hours. Forget 3, like 6 hours. And then, I haven't made lunch for my son, and I haven't, I haven't prepared dinner yet or thought about dinner and things like that. And I've also neglected a client consciously. So,
that's tough. And I'm not a parent, so I don't know what that experience is like, but I know many parents who talk about mom guilt.
Mom guilt. Mom guilt.
Pamela says, kill the guilt. And amen. You're as important as everybody else in your little world. So yeah. I want to go back. I want to talk about your early days. When you were a young person, you talked a little bit about having a teacher that was particularly supportive, that there was somebody at your school perhaps that maybe championed your work, or was there somebody specifically that you felt nurtured that willingness to be creative?
Not in my early years.
Okay, this was in your later years.
Yeah, hold on a second. I can't believe it. I gave it the power. Sorry.
It's all right. Well, tell me about the early days.
Okay, so I grew up. What was it like? I grew up in Germany, and I'm Jewish. So what was that like? That was the whole discussion. And do you have more time?
We have 45 minutes. We're good.
45 minutes. Oh no. I grew up Jewish in Germany, and so I was born in 1967. So 70s, 80s, we lived in this bubble of the Jewish community, which was very, very small. I mean, and then I got to it's 5th grade, so you're 10 is the higher education part, and then got into the public school that is, wonder if this is going, that's German. So at that time, it was very fascinating for them that I was Jewish, and that was special. And it was always like, well, what's it like? What's it like? And there was no felt anti-Semitism. That came later. So I won't say I have never really experienced anti-Semitism.
Wow. Because
that time in Germany, it was the next generation, my generation, like awakening to the fact of what their grandparents did and what their parents did. So it was more a curiosity and acceptance, which I think vanished now. Right. There's a whole rollover on that. And yeah, so we lived as, as curiosity, I would say.
Do you have any ancestors or relatives that were in the Holocaust?
Everybody. I'm named after my great-grandmother who we lost. And
Annette, 1 second real quick. Yeah. I think we lost the feed on Instagram, if you wanted to try and join again.
Yeah, I do. So how do we do that now?
Just hit join the live feed, and I'll bring you back in. Sorry, folks.
There's no
look at my pin here while we're doing this. This was especially for Annette today. Kill the imposter syndrome.
Okay, so how do I join the live feed now?
Just watch the live feed on Instagram, and then I think you can just hit select to join. Let's see.
Okay, I'm watching, but okay.
All right, Instagram folks, bear with us, and Facebook folks. We'll be right back. Let's see.
Bummer.
I'm just going to put this right here for a second so I can see what's happening. All right. Don't worry if you can't get it back on.
All right. Sorry.
That's all right. All right, folks, on Instagram, jump on over to Facebook or YouTube and you can catch the rest of the live feed. All right. So tell us about ancestors, Holocaust.
Eastern European descent. My mom's side is from Romania and my father's side is from Poland. And both of my parents were born my father in 42 and my mom in 48. So they did not necessarily experience the Holocaust, but their parents did. And pretty much many people on each side were lost. And we're all named after those people. My daughter has like 4 girls' names. 4 women that were lost.
You know, one of the interesting conversations that I've heard around the Holocaust is that there are descendants of folks who were, killed in the Holocaust who experienced this thing called ancestral trauma, right? There's this thread that is carried on through generations. Have you ever felt that connection to your ancestors and that kind of pain?
Yeah. Well, yes. What was it? Yesterday or the day before? It was Yom HaZikaron, which is Israeli commemoration of the soldiers lost as well as the Holocaust. And I go to a ceremony, I'm crying. I see pictures and I'm crying. I feel like I'm them. So I feel very connected to that history.
And then, of course, fast forward to the last 8 years, or 4 years, I should say, of, what was just a moment in time, especially in this country, and I think globally, where there's been this tension that is beyond, it's probably a very light way of putting it, but this tension and also this just unearthing of anti-Semitism, right? We've been seeing it right here on the East Coast, schools with swastikas, graffitied on their walls and real blatant, just anti-Semitic behavior. Now you're somebody who said you've not experienced that personally. As a mother and as, somebody who has children out in the world in this environment and just as a human being, how do you process that is happening in 2020, 21?
What else is new? It's so effing boring. Is that a terrible thing to say? It's been going on 2,000 plus years. I mean, it's such an old disease and I don't get it. I don't get it. Why is someone out there trying to hurt my kids? Because what? Because I pray at a different day? It doesn't make sense to me. So, but it's such an old story and it continues and it's really sad. It's really sad.
So you were particularly moved last year by the George Floyd killings and the whole movement that kind of spun out of that experience, which is something that's compounded on years and years of, the race wars in America. You created that beautiful piece behind you, which is to your left, other way. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that piece?
Sure. So I didn't grow up in this country, and obviously we all know I knew about racism and the history of race, slavery, and the disadvantages of what's going on, but I wasn't really aware of this, what they call systematic racism, of the disadvantages that are being put upon the society in that area. And obviously police brutality makes me cry just as much as the Nazis made me cry. What is going on? I mean, stop it already. Shoot in the leg. It's like, okay, so you felt like you were whatever, shoot in the leg, the person's down, you don't have to kill.
Yep.
So I wasn't really aware of how deep it went. That's really the truth. And I'm woke, I guess. a little bit, even though I don't know if I'm allowed to use that term. But as a Jewish person, I totally I identify with this frustration of we all are different. We all have whatever, and we should all work and have a good life and be able to achieve our dreams and goals. And so anyway, back to the painting. No, this way. That was the vision I had. The background is layered with images from the protests and everything that was going on, especially in New York City. I just Googled the images and I printed them out. And then I also collected all these phrases that I was hearing on the news, on the internet, on social media, whatever. And that's how I layered it. So if you go close, you'll see the images, even though there's color over it. And then the words are very striking. I can't believe I still have to
effing bleep.
Protest this stuff. And all the phrases are there that I heard. I'm sure I missed some. And then I put this face in the center, and she's perturbed, but hopeful that things will change in the future. So she's not super happy. I didn't want someone smiling, obviously, but I hope that I gave the face some sort of visual looking ahead kind of, concept.
Absolutely. I think there's definitely a hopeful, just with the use of color in the background as well, there's a sense of hope. But also a sense of, like you said, how much longer does the Black community have to deal with this? This is ridiculous. So,
it is ridiculous.
So, when you were a child, we're talking just about the creative side of things now. How did you first discover that you had this passion for creativity? Was it something that was celebrated? Did your parents support that?
They did not support it, but I was doodling, apparently. I don't really recall that much of doing it, but I must have been doodling a lot. And there's pictures of me showing things. And then when I got to gymnasium, I did take art, but it was German style. Meaning, this is how you do it. This is how you draw, and I wasn't particularly good at that kind of art. It was only when I was a little older, 15 or something, there was, you had to take some sort of additional class. And I did take art there. That must have been something. And we had the hippie teacher. He was like hippie with the glasses and everything. And Mr. Klein, Herr Klein, and he had a whole different approach to art. And he made me, I don't know what, my first painting was a copy of Monet with the dots and the feeling of the paint. And that's when things started going, oh, this is the kind of art that I'm good at. I like doing. And that was my first spark into realizing that there might be something there that I have a passion for.
And you did take your creative spirit, your creative talents, and move them into the business world you became a graphic designer.
Yes.
How was it kind of managing that, okay, I need to put my hat on here to bring other people's ideas to life as a graphic designer and their vision and, what they're seeking. And then at the same time, have creative freedom over here. Did you find that you were able to wear those two hats simultaneously?
Well, I only started painting again about 6 or 7 years ago. So I was not painting since I got out of art school. Wow. So I got art school in 92. I went into graphic design. I did book cover design. Then I switched to design firm, and I was doing, all your traditional graphic design things until 6 years ago. So and I had my first baby, who's now almost 16. After 6 months after he was born, and I was going back. I went back to work. And then 6 months after that, I decided it wasn't really working for me. And I thought, I'll just do freelance. And it was a good time to go freelance. So I did that for a while, and then it wasn't enough.
What brought you back 6 years ago? What was it that brought you back 6 years ago?
I was in a down. I was not in a good place anymore. It's always about, the client. It was about the kids. It was the house. It was this. People just pulling me, and there was like nothing that I was enjoying really for myself. And I have these girlfriends that said, "Hey, there's paint nights. Remember, there was a big time to do these paint
Wine
nights.
and paint, sip and paint.
Yeah, sip and paint nights." That's exactly what happened, actually. Thank you, Gina and Francis. Anyway, and I said, "Yeah, let's go." And I did. I went to the one with them and another one with them. It was real great fun. And I was like, wait a second. I remember that I used to love this. What's going on here? And then the one place I did a paint night was at the New York Art Studio on 96th Street. And I saw that they have classes and things like that. So I looked at their website, and they had one for advanced people, advanced painters. So I didn't feel I was a beginner. And that's where that's when it just really took off. And everybody, if you have the urge and you're in the city, it's a good place to start.
So it sounded like you remembered who you are.
Yeah. And I have just, your girlfriends are so important. They didn't even mean to, but it was really, really, really great fun. And then I just went, wait, this is something that I used to do and used to really enjoy. And here we are now. It's like 7 years later. I made a lot of paintings.
How many paintings would you estimate that you've created in those years?
30.
Wow. That's awesome.
30, but I want to do more. Oh, wait, we forgot about the coffee.
What's in your cup? What is in your cup this morning? Regular coffee?
Frappuccino. I'm a big...
Oh, you're so fancy.
Frappuccino. Not that fancy because it's, the one from the bottle.
Let's talk about anxiety for a second, because you and I, we were chatting before we jumped on, and you're a little anxious about today. And, and I think just in general, as artists now, we now that the kind of the gallery role plays a lesser role in our success, we almost have to move a little more into the spotlight than we've perhaps been accustomed to as artists, right? We've been okay kind of being in the shadows and letting somebody else be the salesperson or the face. But now it's almost required that we get out front and center. And I know, because I work with you, Annette is in one of my programs. We've worked together for several months now, and I do know you. That's been a challenge for you in some ways to put yourself in that spotlight.
Yes.
Share with me a little bit about that.
I don't like it.
I don't like it.
I don't like what's to share. Yeah. I've always been camera shy, and I have a fear of speaking in public, so much so that my first boss signed me up for a class to go public speaking in public and deal with clients, which is something I had to do, but it's not my favorite thing to do.
I don't think I think it comes natural to a very few people. And, one of the things that I had to get over was it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Nobody's expecting us to show up like a polished newscaster. Well, although you look like one today. Usually when I see Annette, folks, we do our weekly coaching sessions, and she's in the studio, she's painting while she's listening, and it's awesome. So yes, we scrub up well, but people don't expect it to be polished. And I think there's a misconception because of this influencer culture that we're experiencing right now, where on, these influencers online are, everything looks perfect and they're polished and everything's a photo shoot and they're holding their, coffee like it's a product, and it's just BS. A lot of it is BS. And I think what people are what they're seeking now is a little bit of vulnerability, right? A little bit of realness, a little bit of just showing who you are as a person so they can get to know you, the artist. So I think you're doing a great job this morning. I don't think your anxiety is good. You kept it in check. Everything is great. So on that note, is there been any particular piece of art or any artist that you've met that you've been just awestruck by?
Oh, met personally?
Either that or anybody that you've kind of any work perhaps that you've stood in front of that you've just been totally blown away by?
Well, on Instagram, yes. There's a few artists that I have total jealousy, envy, or what's the word? No, they should have it. They're so awesome. Of course they are. And they influence me as well. And I try things that I like that they do. Yes.
It can be hard sometimes to stay like in your lane when you see all these different types of work, especially because we get that art fatigue watching, being on Instagram, because we're just bombarded with images and amazing work. How do you stay kind of quote unquote in your lane?
I don't. I don't put the paintings out, but there is definitely a painting I can think of that is totally copying the style of somebody else. So I tried to make it myself, but when I look at it, I'm just like, that is hers. So I haven't put that out on my Instagram, but I love it. Other people love it too. But I tried it, and maybe I can find a way to integrate it and make it my own in the next painting.
And I think there's a fine line between being influenced and just replicating somebody's work, right? Like this whole
I didn't replicate, but I saw how she manages things, and
right,
I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, I want to do that.
And I think that's totally fine. The coach in me is going to tell you, no, stick with one style.
Yeah.
But, in terms of just being a good, an artist who's kind of living in their truth, I think it's fun to experiment. It's fun to have that time in your studio to explore new techniques, to explore new ideas as well, because it does make us a better artist.
For sure. I mean, I'm not afraid. I'll just do it. I paint with a bunch of women via Zoom now, and they're always like amazed. I'm like, Annette just does it. I'm like, I just do it. And then hopefully it will come out good. Like, and if it doesn't, it goes to the side. I have paintings that no one's ever seen.
How do you know when a piece is done?
It says, "Don't touch me." No, actually what happens is like, I don't want to go back. Like, I'm like, I think I'm done because I don't want to do anything anymore. I'm already on the next thing. I'm already excited about the next idea. So, because if you look, some of these, look at this. You can do this forever. I mean, I could go back and make more circles and make more lines. You can, a lot of my paintings, you can do them forever. So I have to say, okay, I think that's it. Like, there's nothing else to add.
Have you ever gone back and regretted it?
This one.
That's beautiful.
That one was my favorite.
I love that piece.
Yes.
Have you ever gone back in, like after have you like second guessed yourself that it's finished and gone back in and regretted it?
Oh, regretted it. I haven't done that. No. I have let pieces stand for a while where I wasn't sure, and then sort of finished it off. Yeah, but once I decide I'm done, I varnish them and sign them. Yeah,
I've unfortunately not done that. I've always gone back and ruined. Well, not always, but I've often gone back and ruined otherwise great pieces. Who are your artistic heroes, dead or alive?
I don't know. There's someone, and I
know who you don't like. First of all, I know you don't like Robert Rauschenberg. She always pushes back at me because I love Robert Rauschenberg. So I hate him.
Well, okay. He's not pretty. He does not please me in a visual sense. I think he did cool stuff and he made some headway conceptually, but like, I wouldn't hang it. that sort of thing. So, would
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not in love with Jackson Pollock either. Don't kill me, everybody. Again, conceptually great. Like he exploded, but like it's not talent, is it? I'm gonna get killed. So to me, okay. So these are the people I don't like. The interesting people that a lot of people have trouble with are Rothko and Barnett Newman. Do you know this person?
Love Barnett Newman's work.
So I discovered him when I was in art school, and I had to make a design booklet, and I picked him and I learned about him. And he draws on the Jewish thing, actually. So that line is the one God, is Hashem.
Wow.
So that gave me the chills when I first discovered it, like, because that, he always plays with that one line and the space. And when you read about it, it's about the one above, the one.
I think there's a piece, MoMA I never remember the name of it. It begins with an O, Obelisk, something like that. It's just this it's like almost looks like it's floating. It's just this beautiful, beautiful piece. Yeah, his work is very, very powerful. So when you show your work, let's talk about the other side of things. When you actually stand and exhibit your work, and I know none of us have done that for some time, given COVID. What is that experience like to have people stand in front of your work, have commentary, give feedback? How do you feel in that moment?
That's exciting. That's fun. I first experienced it 2019. I was in Art Expo as a dare from another fellow friend and painter, and we did a booth together just because, and we got in and we were like, oh, okay. And then we did two more shows with one with you, actually, before I met you, and that was a really interesting experience. People come talk to you about what, and you have to tell the story. You have to tell the story of what you meant by it.
Yep.
Yes.
We're laughing because I'm always pushing Annette to tell more stories about her work. It's our inside joke, but that's okay. You're doing great. Yeah. So what is some of the surprising or perhaps unusual responses that you've had? Are you ever surprised or shocked at people's response to your work, or perhaps what people see in your work?
Well, I haven't had that much experience, to be honest. So I haven't had any. I've never had anyone say, "Oh, this is bad." So yay!
Good.
Yay.
Good. They get a kick in the teeth if they do. I'll be right there.
I've had people say, "This is awesome," but I wouldn't hang it.
Okay. Why do people feel a need to do that? Why?
I don't know.
Just don't talk. Like, just it's as though there's like this detachment, like from the human being, right? It's like there's a human here that put their soul into this piece of artwork that doesn't require your commentary. Like, if you don't have anything nice to say and you're not an art critic, right, who's knowledgeable in the field, just don't say anything.
Well, but I understand that comment because I feel like that about Rauschenberg, right? So.
It's interesting because I actually had a conversation yesterday with the editor-in-chief, the top art critic of ArtNet News. I have a 2-part interview coming out with him soon, but he said, the importance of critique. I actually asked him, I said, how do you reckon with the idea that, you could write somebody potentially a bad review or bad critique on their work and it could totally destroy their career, right? But what he said was really interesting. He said, I gauge who the audience is, like how much impact it's going to have on that person. And he said, critique is really important because it helps the artist to develop. It helps the artist to challenge and push themselves. Do you agree with that?
Yes, but it doesn't have to be public.
I agree. Do you take critique, or have you taken critique from anybody?
I have parents.
That's criticism.
Yes, of course. When I first started back in the New York art studio, there was a lot of that, and I learned a lot, and it's very supportive critique, for sure. Because I didn't start out with my style of painting, which I now have. I started out with painting photographs of trees and flowers and things like that. So I didn't start out with this, but after 2 or 3 years of that, I was like, but I want to find my own voice now. Like, now that I know exactly what happens when actually I decided that that's actually my style, not knowing what happens. But now that I sort of know, I want to express myself. That was really it. Like, I was no longer interested in making a pretty picture.
Right.
Just because it's pretty. I'm more interested now in expressing the concepts and ideas. And I think that has a little bit to do with the graphic designer in me. Because I've always been faced with the client says, okay, I want to say X, and then I made X happen for them. There was a problem to solve, a visual problem to solve. And I love that. I love doing logos. I still love doing logos. My favorite thing to do is logos. But so, like this one, there was a concept. There was like, okay, I want to show these figures together, and what else can I bring into the painting that will show falling in love, that will show a connection and the future or the past or regrets or this sort of thing. And that's why I call myself a conceptual artist, because there will be some sort of idea, concept, vision, and then I will follow it through with more deeper things that can be said about it.
It's beautiful. Well, we are at the 47 minute mark, so that wasn't so painful, right, Annette?
I guess not.
So if anybody has any questions for Annette, now would be a great time to drop them into the comments. We do see all your comments here in there's been a lot of love here for you, Annette. So do drop in any questions that you have. In the meantime, while people are putting their questions in, what is next for you, Annette? What is kind of your next creative project? Do you have something that you're mulling over, or something that you're excited about?
Are you talking about a painting? Yes. Okay. So I started a companion piece, or yes. I found a photo of a couple like hugging, and I love the pose, and it's inspiring my next thing. I planned it out, and I put down the pieces, and I started applying color. The first layer. So for me, that's the first layer. There's going to be like 50. So it's going to be 50.
We look forward to your progress on that. So a couple of questions. Andrew Diaz. Hi, Andrew. One of our San Diego artists. Good morning, Rachel and Annette. My question for Annette is on her approach for starting a piece. Do you plan out the piece, or do you just go off an emotion or a message? We kind of talked about that early on, but do you want to just give Andrew a quick answer on that?
I plan with a computer. I plan the dimensions, and I will place the visuals with Photoshop and InDesign into the grid. And once I'm happy with I'm skipping the word. The layout? It's not the layout.
Composition?
Composition! Oh my God. Once I'm happy with the composition, I print that out on 8x11, and then I take it to the canvas and then apply the grid. And but to me, the composition is very important, and I have to know what size I'm going to put it on.
Okay. And Veronica asks, do you ever get distracted when you paint?
Not really, because this is my favorite thing to do. I get distracted when other people come into the room, COVID's not helpful. When can people go back to work that live here?
Well, you have a very busy household, and you just got a dog, so you got your hands full.
Oh yes, she's so cute.
And then Veronica asks again, Annette, how long have you been painting, and do you do shows? Well, that's difficult right now, but.
So I've picked up painting about 7 years ago. So I would call myself like a late bloomer artist, fine artist. And I did 3 shows in 2019, and I had planned 2 last year, and that was canceled. And I'm going to be in Art Expo 22 in April, because that was the one that was canceled, and they wouldn't give us anything back. So we just pushed that over, and I'm fine with that. And yeah, I'm in a few virtual shows, and the shows that I've been to, they cost a lot of money to get into, so it's very hard to lay that out.
Yeah, it's something you have to kind of do the analysis of what is the return on investment. And sometimes it's not always just the sale. Sometimes it's the connections that you make, and the experience that you have, and what you can kind of take forward from, you know, that entire experience. Well, this has been Coffee with Artists. Annette, it was wonderful to hang out with you this morning. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for sharing your work and your experience with our audience. Any final thoughts you want to leave our audience with?
Come and check me out on my website.
There you go. How did you do that? What is your website address? I'm going to pop it in the comments.
www.annettebeckfineart.com. Yeah, come and get a piece.
Go shopping, folks. Go check out shopping. And Annette, it was wonderful having you. Such a pleasure. Folks, we will be back again next week, same time, 11 a.m. Eastern, Friday mornings. This has been Coffee with Artists. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Bye. Thanks.